amongst it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Well, that's why I'll do it. It's like soon as like it's the same as like when I do do none of the pre-waffle really when I do the lives.
Yeah, it needs pre-waffle. It needs editing. Just get straight amongst it.
Although I did have a nightmare with Alicia's.
Oh yeah. So it
yeah,
doesn't help with yeah, when you get amongst your lives, I've noticed that you're doing it like peak time, aren't you? That doesn't help either.
Yeah. Well, it's not that. I had to cut a section out of the podcast.
Oh, were you naughty?
No, it was things that was said that she didn't want on the lives. So I had to obviously mention things like Wild Ones podcast and all that, and former hosts, and I had to take it out. And then what Alicia had to do was chop it. That's why I had to delete it, download it again, but I had to chop it into upload it again in 4 parts. But on the iTunes and Spotify, I just uploaded it in 1, which is fine. But for the video, I literally couldn't. I could build it, but I couldn't upload it. It just wouldn't let us access it.
It's a pain in the ass, isn't it? But anyway, this has been a long time in the making, Chris. Welcome to the Granite Zero podcast. It's been too long. But for those of you that listen to the show, Chris has been a supporter of the podcast since pretty much its birth. He popped up and was like, I love your format, love what you're doing. I think it's a brilliant idea. And I was like, oh, fucking my first fan. But you're fucking much more than that, mate. The amount of effort and time you put into countless different avenues, shall we say, whether it's, for example, helping me out with the Granite Zero book. You didn't have to do that, but there you was in all your glory. And a few other people I believe you've helped out, but you also do, like we were just mentioning there, your Instagram live style podcast that you do, getting interesting new people on, and your support for veteran companies, mate, is I actually think it's second to none. I don't think there's anyone that like supports the veteran community quite like Chris Michaels.
I would say Tony Gibson. I've got to give Tony Gibson a shout out because his is always on point on his stories. But I'll be honest with yourself, I look at it as like I'll support everybody. So it's that diversity, because I think it doesn't make a difference if it's a veteran, civilian. To be honest, a business is a business. So no matter who's behind it and their background, like I said, yes, obviously I will always support the veterans, podcasts, apparel companies, people like Smudge, you know what I mean? All the people like all the different people out there, like yourself. I mean, we could literally sit there and reel off probably 50 companies.
Well, yeah, we probably could. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what's lacking in today's society. Like you just said, it doesn't have to be a veteran company. These small businesses out there, they need it right now. And especially in today's climate with the lockdowns, the COVID, all that bollocks, that we could go into deep rabbit holes on that, but we probably won't. We've only got an hour and a bit. But it's the support you need. Like, as you probably noticed, I'm not going to give them too much airtime, but I've had a bit of mixed reviews with the book, and it comes from people I served with that aren't liking it. Everyone's not everyone's going to like it. That's what happens, isn't it? But you don't need to go on to, like, I've put a lot of effort into that, and as have you, to help me out through it. You don't need someone then to just be a dick. You don't need to be a dick. Just, if you don't like it, just leave it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Because what it was when I obviously got the raw material, I looked at it as, okay, this isn't specifically about, like I said, the RAF regiment. What I was looking at is, yes, it's one of the first of its kind, because we've got that many different, veteran authors out there now who've given us perspective from different areas, and predominantly in the last, say, 20 years. So you've got to look at the big conflicts of Afghan and Iraq there. But what I was looking at was, I wanted it to be accessible to everybody. because you see, what I found was it doesn't make a difference if you served in the RAF Regiment, Royal Navy, because essentially you could say, okay, so the only people that were really getting ground time were, say, Royal Marines, Paras, Army, all together, that part. And then you could look at areas such as, say, the Royal Navy, where ships were in, like, obviously the Gulf, coast of this, coast of that. They had obviously Fleet Air Arm, and then I look and I think predominantly people could say the same about them. So I'm looking at is anybody who gave a negative spin on it, was it because it started speaking the truth of what they didn't like to be talked about? Because I think what it was is anybody who gives a negative spin on particular areas, say for example the RAF Reg, I wanted to give it a really valuable perspective of, like, this is the job that you guys do, this is what you did in those areas of conflict. So I wanted to give a broader, so this was a perspective from your own perspective.
And
also
exactly.
give a generalization.
Yeah, totally. And, it's like I was saying, like, a few things have popped up saying that I was lying about certain stuff, but it's like I said to a lot of my mates have gone, Tom, I was there, I know you didn't, that sort of thing. But if I was going to lie about something, surely I would make it all singing, all dancing, fucking I did this, I did that, being a proper Walter Mitty. Why would I say that I was getting depressed because I wasn't seeing anything? And I took a lot of inspiration from another book that got a lot of hate when it was first written, and that was Jarhead. And a lot of people know it as the movie, because the movie got was good reviews in a broader outlook of it, but people that were serving in the Marines were like, no, that you can't have that. That doesn't show us being all warlike and amazing. That's showing us being boring and waiting around. It's like, well, that happens. And Anthony Swarford got a lot of shit for it because he wasn't all singing, all dancing. It's like, well, no, this is my outlook on what happened. But yeah, like you said, it's a different type of book, and it's not just about my time within the military. It's how I coped with it when I left, and that was the main
I think
thing.
I think that's the part that you need to focus on. See, because what it was is anybody who's given it a negative spin, they could do it quite easy and say, you never suffer from this, you never suffer from that. But the problem is, though, is it's not just military. It's not just,
Exactly.
People keep thinking like post-traumatic. I call it post-traumatic now because to me, is it really a disorder? We could look at it from many different perspectives, but also I look at it as anybody who's given it a negative spin, is because it affects everybody. You could have car accidents, you could have domestic abuse, you could have rape cases, you could have violent, assaults. With mine, it was literally, if I broke it down, it was probably like, 20% caused by most of the time in the military, 80% civilian. So is that, just because I served in the military doesn't mean I necessarily got that from being in the military, And I think
totally
a lot of people,
agree with
they don't like it. They don't like, because see this one point. No.
Yeah, carry on. So carry on. I'm being a bit butting in there, but carry on.
No, because I want to back you up a little bit here, because in a sense, people who say that you didn't suffer from this, you didn't suffer that, we never suffer from that. Everybody's going to have an element of mental health in their life. But what they've got to realize is everybody deals with that stress level in their own ways.
Yeah, exactly.
You see, just because they didn't have that same effect of being in that area at the same time doesn't mean somebody else. We all got coping mechanism and levels of stress. That's the problem that people have got to remember. Everybody's an individual. And that's what they're not taking in perspective. So they're looking and thinking, well, I didn't go for this, or that didn't happen to me. Well, you probably know 20 people that didn't anything happen.
Yeah.
But yet for yourself, that's your personal perspective. That's all you've ever wrote about.
Yeah, mate. And I can hold my hands up. When I first came out in the military and I was having all these thoughts and feelings that I didn't know how to process, didn't know how to deal with, which is my main problem. That's why I got so bad, was because I wasn't processing them. And one of my close friends started suffering quite badly with depression. and anxiety and a touch of PTSD. And I was like, but fuck off, mate. You served in the same regiment as me. I didn't fucking have that. But that was my way of trying to deal with my own issues. I was like, no, I'm going to fucking have a go at him. Take the highlight him over me. That fuck off cunt sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I went to therapy and I was sat down and I was going through the different stresses, being on tour without doing anything. Like you're on a fucking heightened sense of stress.
Yeah.
Constantly, and then basically nothing happens. It's like, what am I supposed to do with all this? But even before that, I lost. Well, I say I lost. We lost, me and the missus. We lost 3 kids, as you probably know from reading the book. We lost. We had 3 miscarriages, and again, didn't really deal with that. Other things that happened previously when I was growing up between my mum and dad that I'm not going to discuss because it's not fair on them. That also affected me. You know what I mean? It's like I can't just go, oh, that's that moment right there. That's the one that did it. Because it's not fucking everything. But yeah, no, enough of that. So what sort of got you into the avenue of like creative writing and writing these books that you've got out? Is it something you've always been passionate about, sort of literature and what have you?
Well, I've always written. I've always written since a kid. So I used to write a lot and put into different phrases or different contexts, or what we call, like, say, basic poetry, but it wasn't. It was creative writing. It wasn't the the rhyme and poetry that we know of. I've always been obviously a big reader. I've read like that many different genres. Right from like Homer right through to to modern day Dan Brown. So I've got a wide perspective, because I would say if anybody wants to have that area of learning creative writing, you've naturally got a skill there, but also on the other side of it, with those, the knowledge you build from somebody else, you gain from somebody else, you take that, and it's a natural skill that you can build. Now, I would say myself, the way I write now is far different than what I did, say, 5 years ago. And it was my way of, because I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to like say, oh, I've got this issue or that issue. I didn't even believe I had PTSD. And even when I got told, oh, you've got that, and say, how could I have that? I never served frontline. So I had a lot of like battles there to broke it down to us, going through psychiatrist, and I had a really good psychiatrist who basically broke it down for us and said, but this is what PTSD is, this is what, it's what causes it, all of the parts of it. So I started thinking, right, okay, so, and what I did was I started writing things down of like, this is how I felt, this is how I felt. It was almost like that journaling. It was like journaling without journaling, because I never realized even what journaling was, So it's kind of like, that's how I started doing it. And what I did was I wanted to, kind of how I felt on this day or that day, or this is how I felt at this moment or that moment. And I kind of created this book form that, and I turned it into like a fiction book, because it was actually called Darkness Be My Friend, the very first book that I actually officially wrote. And it was something for myself, because I always wanted to write a book and I never knew what. So I kind of was quite proud that I got it out there, got it actually, on book form almost, got it out there. And then it was like, it wasn't until Welcome Back to Darkside, the second one, that was where it really came into place. So I started thinking, okay, so how can I put my lessons, these things I've learned from being in that place, or experiences, and it's not just over, say, a period of like 15, 20 years, it's like my lifetime. How can I put that into a form that people can understand? And I always said it from day one, if somebody gets something of value from this and it helps them, that's my job done. And I've always said I would have finished a long time ago, because I've had a lot of positive feedback on it. But as you've probably seen, as I've put in, I started looking at different areas, and I see it from a different perspective. I don't like to copy what's already there. So I use that form of like, we've become so comfortable, becoming uncomfortable, that we're now comfortable again, but it's with fixed ideas. So what I've done is I've gone back, looked at things. I have a lot of inspiration as well from many different forms, but what I've done is I've drawn different things from other people almost, and thought, that perspective's good. What about this perspective? And I'm always like to think outside the box. So all my books are like the ones like on addictions, because I looked at this, people say, oh, addictions and then there's 7 sins. Let's combine that and let's see what we can work with this. So as I've done it, and I've done a mental health management book. So like what helped me may help somebody else. So what I've done is it's all for other people almost, but it's like, this is what helped me. Maybe it might help other people. Or let's talk about this subject, or let's talk about things that people don't want to talk about.
You
know, and I like to break things down and put it onto book form. So it's a long journey, especially the last 5 years. It's been a big learning curve, and it's also been a big development curve and evolution for myself, because we've all got to evolve, haven't we?
Definitely. Yeah, of course. You can't, like you just said, we've all got to evolve. If we don't, then we're just going to be static and stuck doing the same thing day in and day out. And you know, when you get into that sort of routine of doing the same thing day in and day out, that's when other issues start taking form. And I've noticed quite recently that you're really good friends with obviously the Jim Self Harmers Club. That's fucking, I find that so hard to say. I don't know why. But again, they do like they're doing at the minute, doing a burpees challenge. Brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Nobody likes burpees, but guess what? Burpees don't like you either. But it's something that keeps you busy. It's like, oh, I've got to do my burpees today, and then next month be something different. And that's what we need to get the spice, the variety, and I think little things like that, little changes, sometimes is all you need.
Definitely, because with the good thing about Jim Self Harmers, if people look at it from a different perspective, it's about accountability and ownership. Just holding yourself accountable. Of like, I've done the second day, now I've done 200, done 100 yesterday, 100 a day. I know tomorrow it's going to be 100. And it's keeping yourself accountable. And these are all the little things that we remember. It may seem like it's a horrible, disgusting thing, 100 burpees, because you literally are hanging out the hoop half the time. But what I've found is it holds you accountable. But also what I love about obviously what Rob's created there, and you know, and I've been like really more involved, obviously doing the 30 miler, and obviously like raising money for mental health charities. But it's a family. It is this family environment. It's a community, and that's what I absolutely love. And everybody is as equal as each other. Like when we've done that 30 miler, if anybody's done the 3 peaks, that third peak is absolutely brutal. You are like, your lungs are redlining. You know, I had obviously Ricciardi on before us, and it was literally the band was flowing, and I was like, "Come on, you know, your Italian Insta stud there. Yes, get up there. Let's competition. Let's beat you." And it was this whole family environment, and it's like, and it's been like that since, and it really took off there. And that's what I love about supporting, you know, everybody that does something positive, because underneath it all, the message is strong, but underneath it all, it's about holding yourself accountable and that ownership of what you're doing. And I think that's a really important part about it as well, because it challenges a challenge. You can go and beast yourself 7 days a week if you want to, but it's about putting yourself in that discipline. It's putting yourself in that ownership and that accountability, which really you can apply throughout your life as well.
Yeah, and I think it's Jocko stands by that as well. Be accountable for your actions, that sort of thing. I can't remember the actual phrase he uses off the top of my head. I know he's got discipline equals freedom.
Yeah,
he's got that one. There's another one that he uses as well, about being accountable. But off the top of my head, I can't fucking think of it. But every time I listen to fucking Jocko, I'm like, I've got to go and do something. I can't just sit here. And the same with Goggins as well. It's like, I got to go do something. And now Rob's another one.
Yeah,
with his right how do,
people, don't you? Yeah, but you see all these people doing this stuff, and you're like, you think it inspires you. I mean, I hate that word motivation, and I agree with Jocko. It is fickle. It is literally like, I prefer discipline, because to me, motivation is like, I'd rather inspiration, because you get inspired by watching other people do something.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a motivation for you to actually create the actions from what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all about being inspired, and you know, and it can come from a podcast form, it can become a page form, it could be anywhere. If something inspires you to create an action which is going to improve you, say for example that 1% each day, by the end of the 5 days you're 5% better than what you were. So automatically inspiration creates that motivation, which then fuels that action are you going to take?
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. And I think throughout this this prolonged period that we've got, there's a lot of people just on. We'll take social media, which I always find is a double-edged sword, anyway. But you find those inspirational people, like you were saying, the likes of Andrew from Mountain High, Valley Deep, or whatever it is, Valley Deep, Mountain High.
Yeah,
I always get them mixed up as well. He's another guy that day in and day out, he's doing something, and he'll be posting something up, and you'll be like, yeah, that's fucking brilliant. Even when way back in the first lockdown, getting in those ice buckets in the ice bin and things like that, you're like, well, that's not a bad idea. Give that a go. It's little things like that, and obviously Robust Tours, another one. Getting tasty, getting after it, boots on, crack on, all that sort of stuff. It's fucking brilliant stuff. And there's another guy that I'd like to introduce you to as well. Tidy Butt is his little handle that he's got. You may have seen him. He's been on the podcast before. He's a Welsh guy that has a few mental health issues, and he's been doing different things. And he again, another one that's putting himself out there, saying, "Look, I've got this, but look, this is how I'm dealing with it. Come and join me." And then he's got people like guest of the year, Mason Jones. I love Mason. But he's got people like that. He's got Jack Shaw, people like that, all coming together. And it's amazing how you can do that through social media. Like, without social media, me and you wouldn't have been speaking.
Exactly.
And
exactly,
I've made some top quality, not that I've met them yet, but I'm sure we will. Some top quality friends through social media, through just being similar and like-minded. Whether it's myself, you, Steve, Smudger, the list could go on, and we're all trying to do that little bit extra to inspire others, to better themselves. Because especially now, how shit is it now? Like this third lockdown, I've found is worse than the first one. The first one we were like, yeah, right, we'll all stick to it. We'll all do our fizz. And it might have been because it was summer. It was nice. So it was like, we can still go out in the garden. It's nice. Now it's winter, third lockdown. We're like, when is this ever going to fucking end? It's grey outside. Down here in Kent, we didn't even have fucking snow. Everybody else had snow. We didn't. Like, that could have been a bit of morale right there. Just a little bit of snow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, do you know what it is? It's because, like me, I've had probably one of the most productive years that I've had. And do you know why? It's because I literally looked at it from day one when I knew I had to go from, say, a work environment to a home environment. So I was working from home, and I'm like, right, I need to create that routine. I need to stay to that routine. So I decided, right, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to create posts. I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to have basically that full week is I'm going to fill in every moment of that 24 hours. I'm not going to concern myself with what politicians say. At the end of the day, they talk more shit than enough. We know that. Okay.
Everybody knows that.
Another part. Exactly. So why concern yourself on that? To me, it's about yourself. With the lockdowns, yes, it probably was because obviously summer last year, and then you had the second one. There was a little bit of leeway as well. Kids could go back to schools. Great. Okay, this one now it's back to square one, and because it is winter. But also, what people have got to remember is this is what people should have been doing from day one. It's about going into a negative situation, but it's about creating what you want. How can you better yourself every day? People are too
totally agree, Chris.
in the area. And do you know what it is as well as social media? I've always said it for a long time. It's a tool. It's a positive tool if you create the circle around yourself. It's the same as when you first start a social media, you start with nothing, no followers. You're not following anybody. You've just got a profile. So what you're going to do is you're going to build a profile that's based on what you like and your inspiration, who inspires you. It's all entirely down to yourself. So if you see something of negativity, you've actually created that action by following them or adding them. So really, at the end of the day, it's about It's a tool, isn't it?
Totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. And and this goes to those that don't like, if you don't like me, for example, if you don't like me and you're following me, you don't like the content I'm putting out, instead of just giving me shit, I'm trying to better myself. I'm trying to better myself, trying to help others. If you don't like it, just click the unfollow button or block me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lose sleep over it. What I don't like is when you then become a complete cunt and start typing away and being fucking personal. It's like, there's no need. I'm just going to block and delete you.
But do you know what it is? People like that, right? I'll be honest with yourself. Something I never get into. I never get into that negative spin with people. If someone's got a negative thing to say, I think, well, that's your opinion, your perspective. That's what you believe from your own thoughts. Fine. Yeah, everybody could have that area of opinion. But at the end of the day, like you said, your page is open. It's not like it's private. It's open. It's there, accessible to everybody. If someone doesn't like the content, unfollow. I've actually got a followers app, and the only reason why I have that followers app is to actually keep tab of like friends. So if they're like, I did with Steve the other day, I'd seen a Veterans Opinion account like dropped off, and I was like, hang on a minute, whoa, message him, everything good, bro? Yeah, cool, right, it's back on. I keep using it for that. At the end of the day, my account yo-yos. It yo-yos constantly on a weekly, monthly basis. But also, I look at it, I don't care who on followers is, because I look at it as like that allows somebody who actually generally wants to
somebody who wants to access. Exactly. I like that.
You know, so I don't take any concern about who doesn't like us. Who does like us, great. You know, if you like us, great. If you like my content, great. If you don't like it, see you later. I don't concern myself. I don't invest my time. And I said this on, I think it was a post on Dean today. I don't invest my time or my energy into people that have got negative energy. I'll only invest it in things that give value to me or to other people. So it's all about valuing your energies, your time. In the day, if you respond back to them, you've got more power by not responding to them than to respond. You are given you are literally just wasting your time, because to me, it's easy that somebody can create a profile, put a message on somebody else's, on their page, on their post. But at the end of the day, it's just a profile picture. You don't know them, they don't know you. So at the end of the day, it's like, does it make a difference? Nope.
No, exactly. And I'm also going to backtrack a little bit on your other point about all these other things from politicians and putting us into lockdowns. Are we going into lockdowns? Are we not going into lockdowns? What I've been trying to enforce, especially in my household, surrounded by women, I'm like, they like to stress about everything. We all know that. I'm not being fucking sexist here. Even my cat likes to stress. But what I've been trying to enforce into them is to try not to stress over the stuff that is not in our control. If you can control it, sure, because we all can. We all stress over the stuff but the things that fucking Boris is going to do, we can't control it. So don't stress about it. Just deal with it when it comes to you. And whether that be fucking actually stick to the rules, stay in the house, only go out to do an hour's exercise or whatever the rule is now, or whatever. Stick to the rules and we'll all get out of this a lot quicker than those fucking cunts that just congregate because they're like, well, it's not affecting me. Okay, it's not affecting you now, but it will. And so it's those sort of people.
It's essentially going against it, isn't it? It's with people. What it is, the problem is though, is there's so many rules now written, and to me, I don't once again invest my time in that. I look at it as the law was written. It was actually written and created, especially for this third lockdown. It was written and created in 2.5 hours or an hour and a half. It was written and created in an hour and a half. It was put through Parliament when nobody knew about. And it was delivered and enforced within 24 hours. Right, fair enough. You've done that. That's where you could argue about the if, buts, and whens, and all a little small print. But to me, I look at it as I don't concern my time on politicians, because to me, it's like I've got no. Once again, I agree with that. The controllables. All I do is I concentrate on what I can control.
Yeah.
And that's like my actions, family around us. Okay, I need to do this today. I need to do that today. The important stuff. Okay. On the other side of it, why waste your time and your energy on things you can't control? At the end of the day, I look at it as a politician or any political party will create a law and they'll enforce it. And we do not have a say in that. And that's not, and at the end of the day, you can go into politics and you can go into all the different things as deep as you want and argue about the ifs, buts, whens, and whys. But at the end of the day, it's got no control. It's got nothing over us, because no matter what we say and we disagree with it, does it make a difference? No, because they do what they want. At the end of the day, everyone's got to remember the parties are a business. The government is a business. It's not a democratic society, a group of people. If you went back to the Greek days, that was known as a democratic party. That is not now. It's a business. They are simply in the art of making money. And that's the way they look at it. You know, when everyone talks about furloughs, all them businesses are going to have to pay it all back. Taxes are going to go up to then replace what's been lost. All they care about is profits and losses. And you've got to think of the government as being a business. They are not there as your concern. We are the least of their concerns. At the end of the day, as long as the coffers are coming in and filling the pockets, that's all they care about, you know? And we could go into this really in depth, but that's why I look at it. I don't agree, you know. Well, it's the same as you could say about police actions. Me, I'm a big believer. I do, you know, I look at this, I respect the law of what they do as a job overall, and you'll always have one or two people that will step outside the law and do what they want. Okay, you can't control that. You know, on the other side, you could say, and that's what I'm saying about the controllables and the energies and your time. If we all sat there reading all this negative news, prints and all that, we know how corrupt everything is. We know how corrupt politicians are. We know how corrupt the media is. You know, why put your energies and your time into something that's going to serve you for nothing? Concentrate on what you can control and what you can adapt and overcome with. Like a lot of businesses have got to go online. Great. Look at those different angles. Look at a different area, you know? At the end of the day, as long as you could concentrate on yourself, your family, and your surrounding circle, that's all you can do. Yes, go out, put your mask on, follow the rules in that sense. Those are like, I'm going against the government. At the end of the day, you'll never win, because you know, with one law, there's it's 50, 100 laws behind it. So why? You're wasting your time, to be honest.
Exactly. It's a bit like that lady, isn't there? I read it the other day. There was a guy that was down south that did it in when we were in Tier 4. He's a barber, and he carried on trading and basically got tried to get, in my opinion, he was trying to get famous. That's what he was trying to do. It backfired on him because his landlord basically said, no, no, get out, basically. But there's been another lady, another salon owner up north somewhere, and she's doing a similar thing. She's clocked up £27,000 in fines.
Yeah.
And then she went to go and open a salon again, and the cops are waiting there. It's like, why would you even? You don't. What? You know what I mean? £27,000 is more than what she'd be making a month, guaranteed. So why are you doing it?
Yeah.
You've been given.
Well, I think
you've been given a grant,
people, isn't it?
Yeah, you've been given a grant for self-employed people. So do your best you can with that. I'm aware you're not working, and everybody wants to work, and that's your business, but you can't trade at the minute because of this fucking virus that is real, by the way, people.
Yeah, exactly. But I know obviously I had Lisa on, and like, you know what I mean? People are out there, like, working in these environments on a daily basis, and they're seeing it, and we know that. But why, like, I look at it as, why add to a problem? I agree. You know, at the end of the day, we're not scientists. You know, even the new vaccines that are coming out, they're essentially just probably a stronger version of what the flu jab was anyway. It's to control it, so you don't get, it might reduce the impact on you by 50%. I don't know the science. I don't think many people do, but I generally look and think, right, take it down a notch. Okay, we can all go against it. I don't agree with lockdowns. I don't agree with many things. I don't agree with the way they go on. But the part I do look at is, well, I just concentrate on what I can control. Because at the end of the day, you know, I could sit there and probably make far better decisions, far better, you know, laws out there. give me 70 grand a year. I can probably create far better things that it's not going to profit myself. But it is what it is, So that's why I look at it. And my main drive, especially, I put a lot more content, and I ramped it up a lot more because I know people are going to struggle with isolated, and that's the bit that I concentrated on, was helping other people in that period of isolation, because I know if these people are isolated, they're going to struggle with mental health. We've seen a ramp in suicides, we've seen a ramp in mental health, and to me, my concern is when I post something on social media, hopefully that will help that one person or two people or three people because change their perspective.
That's what I like about your posts that you do put out, the different quotes from different people that you've obviously seen, taken a bit of inspiration from, done a fucking funky post. But when you actually read the words that are written there, you're like, I'm gonna keep that with me for fucking today.
Yeah.
And people like yourself that do put yourself out there, and myself, similar, not as much as I probably should, but I've got a few ideas in my head that I want to play about with that I'll discuss with you after. But it's like to you, Steve Nichols, who's got the Right Flank Support Group, again, Tidy Butt that I was talking about. They've all got these little communities that you can go in and go, I'm not in a good place right now. And that, like we said earlier, that community then comes around you and fucking supports you. And that's what we need. You don't need to be doing a Karen or Johnny Dickhead down the road, fucking posting negative shit all the time about lockdowns and fucking gyms being closed. We're aware that the fucking gyms are closed. We're aware there's a fucking lockdown. What can we do that can boost our fucking morale, just make ourselves a bit happier for a couple of hours or whatever? Why are people stopping doing fucking Zoom calls again? Like, it's little things. We've stopped doing the clap for the NHS. And
well, to be honest, on that note, I'll be honest yourself. I think myself, they should have been given more financial support and a raise in wages than the clap. To me, yes, we respect the NHS, we respect the emergency services, we respect all these areas. But at the end of the day, a clap is like, a clap is a clap, but it doesn't make a change. To make a change is to financially give them and raise their wages. To me, they are worth 70,000 a year.
Oh, of course.
A doctor, a nurse. You know what I mean? Why? What really? Well, I think was another thing was a kick in the face was how they gave themselves £3,500 wage raise, but they wouldn't give that to the NHS. Yes, they'll all stand there and say, support the NHS. Well, why didn't you support them? Raise their wages.
I totally agree with that.
Money into them.
They all voted against that. They all voted against that, and then we're like, if you all go out and give a clap, it's like, we would do that anyway.
That does nothing.
Because
it does nothing.
Do you know what I mean? Like me and you, we're not going to go, right, we're going to give our wages, though. No, we can't do that because we need it. But you guys can actually that's the whole point of the NHS. That's, it's free healthcare for a reason. You guys need to fucking be accountable and give the pay rise. We'll still do the clapping and fucking, like I had Lisa on fucking last Sunday. I even told her, I was like, it's a fucking honour for you to be on here, because I know for a fact that you've been called in to do some work when you didn't have to. It was your day off and you still went in. I was like, I may have gone to fucking Iraq and Afghanistan, but in my opinion, the true heroes at the minute are these people. Wars change, as people know, and the NHS staff, doctors, nurses, paramedics, I've got some very close friends that are paramedics, are flat out. And I liked doing the clap, going out, giving them a round of applause and saying thank you. But you're 100% right. The thank you needs to be
backed up with financial.
You cunts, stop taking your fucking pay rises. Have a fucking pay freeze for you fuckers, you fat cats, and give it to those guys. that have watched.
Because they did it. I think it was New Zealand. New Zealand did it. They actually reduced their wage. They took a reduction in wages and said we're not, because we feel it's unfair. But the problem is, that's what I said, going back to it, the government is simply a business, you know. But that's another part of it is I look at it as the people, like you said, the people that need it the most now are people who are NHS, you know, frontline, care homes, all this area. It's like, raise the wages, give them a higher wage. I mean, every one of them should be on a 50,000 plus wage. You know, I think myself,
and also,
they are worth.
And also, I know a lot of people want to become nurses and fucking midwives, nurses, paramedics, doctors. Doctors get paid quite a bit anyway, but that's understandable for the amount of work that they put in to get there. Nurses and what have you. But the reason why a lot of people don't is because of their wage.
Yeah.
You fucking increase their wages, you watch the amount of people go, oh, I wouldn't actually mind being a fucking nurse.
Yeah.
And you'll get an increase in fucking people wanting to become nurses, and then, you know, the lack of staff and things like that will be a thing of the past. But because they get shit on, which is fucking sickening, really, it's our fucking, like, National Health Service, and they voted
it's more
not
business
to.
now. Well, it's essentially that it's just in its name now. We've got to remember the whole idea of privatization for the last, like, say, 10 or 20 years, right? There isn't so much as a thing as an NHS. It's all in but name. It's all basic contractual services.
Oh, of course,
when you actually break it down, and it's
you break it down, they got G4S and all sorts, haven't they? As like drivers and
you've got to remember, it's, once again, it takes it back to, it's a business, and that's not just like the government is a business. The same as like all the different services is a business. It's there to make profits and losses, but more profits than losses. And it's the same as the military. The military are like contracted as well. That if you look at it, everything's changed over the last 20 years, where it's all contractual services and it's all about making profit. But once again, I look at it as, that's why I said I don't concern myself and put all my time and energy into investing in this area, because I look at it as like, we can vote and vote and vote and vote for different things, but at the end of the day, the box stops at them. They'll say yes or no. You know, it's whatever is beneficial to them, not to us, to them. You know, definitely. And that's what we've got to remember. It's not a democratic country anymore. It's become something completely different. But also, that's why I never step into that arena. I never do.
Yeah. And that's where you can see the difference in certain countries, right? So obviously we've got Great Britain, all singing, all dancing, apparently, still going through the same fucking thing over and over again. You go across the fucking way across the pond to fucking Australia and New Zealand, who actually went, hang on a minute, how can we stop this virus from spreading properly? Right, if we do a fucking proper lockdown, nobody's allowed out, that will limit it. And then do whatever else they needed to do. They're fucking almost back to normal.
And
the fucking New Zealand, they're prime ministers, aren't they? They're not presidents. Their prime minister, the female, I can't remember her name, she did all that with all the bushfires, all the fucking all that sort of palaver. Then they went into the lockdown with this fucking pandemic. She did all that, and she was pregnant. I think we need another woman in power, I think, mate.
Well, it's maybe a case of like the days of Maggie in it, but like, mind you, that's the area of it, and I think that's another part that people have got to remember. It's the same as like Meg say, and I really like Steve when he said that charities only exist because of failure of the government. And I like that perspective, because that's the same as mental health. When you look at mental health, and I always say to people can message you and I don't like to call myself an advocate of it. I look at it as like, yes, if my content helps you, great, but I'm not a trained professional. And I think that's another part. I don't like that area that people message. To me, I'd rather say, well, why didn't you get in contact with this people or this group or this, this service? Because you've got to remember, once again, charities are a business. Yeah. Because you've got to remember as well, the reason why they're struggling as well, mental health, charities as well, and organizations, is because, once again, it's a business. I done some work. I went to see some people. I had this meeting, and I put across an idea about like basically the Covenant Fund that the military have. It's about 10 million. And I'm not quite sure if that's quarters or it's a year, but they have 10 million to play with. And I said, well, why don't you train all the people that are leaving them, or the people that you want to or would like to? Why don't you put them on a course that will train them to become psychiatrists, counselors, etc.? Use the money from that, train them up, and then use them to help other veterans. And to me, it's like the money's there, you know, and I did present it to a few people, and I never got really anything back from it. But like, to me, I look at it, it's a simple solution. The money's there. Use it to train people who are like veterans who are leaving, who will help other veterans, because they'll be able to communicate better with them, they'll be able to relate better to them, and they'll be able to be on the same wavelength. So really what you've got is a package there. They leave, you know, they're trained in an area that will help other veterans that are then, you know, and it's going to be a very positive spin. But the other part of it is, and I kind of thought, well, why would they not want to do that? Why is it that the fact of it is, once again, it comes down to it's a business. A charity is a business. You've got to remember that. It's all about profits and losses. You know?
And that goes back to who I bring up quite a lot on the show, with Al McGregor in Inner Armour.
Yeah.
He's another one that keeps getting shunned by the military and things like that. And it's like, why? He's producing this fucking life-saving, he doesn't like it being called a tool, but a life-saving tool that can be taught to the likes of me, you, even serving members, so that they can deal with all this stuff before it actually takes hold. So say you start having a bit of a wobble, I'm there, I'm checking on you. Matey boy, fucking John down the road, he's checking on me. As everybody knows that have served within the police, fucking fire service, the military, paramedics, you have that buddy system where you check on each other to make sure you're right. But he goes in and has got this thing that's all singing and all dancing, and they're like, no, we're not having that, because it's that what if factor. What if it doesn't work and someone kills themselves? It's like, well,
it's going to happen anyway. At the end of the day, what you've got to remember, at the end of the day, you've got to remember things will happen that are once again out of your control. Okay, if you look at the spike in veteran suicide, say over the last 20 years, it never. And if you've got to think about that, when I was making the discharge, it wasn't official. The government never officially recognised post-traumatic stress back in 2002. Okay, it didn't exist. They never used that buzzword. It wasn't until you got the likes of Afghan and Iraq, and it was more Afghan that you started seeing these problems and people coming back and then displaying problems, and then, oh, we've actually got a problem here. You know, we've actually started to see this and how it affects, because we've never been in that type of conflict. If you think about it, since the Second World War, we've never been in that multiple, you know, multiple theatre of warfare for, like, you know, since 1940, you know, 40s really. So it was a whole new ball game. But also the other part of it, and I know Mark Gordon as well, Dr. Mark Gordon over the States, and it was Hugh Keir had him on the pod on H Hour.
Yeah, he's coming on here.
That brilliant, and honestly, he is absolutely just. See, that just shows and how much, and he's like 10, 20 years ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, he is, mate.
Once again, I think it's
about, and again, he was shunned.
Yeah,
if you listen, when I first listened to him on it's well, hopefully he'll let me know, but yeah, it's, they don't like the fact that people have got, especially when he was talking to the Brits. I found that he said he was talking to some bigwigs, and they don't, and in my opinion, this is my opinion now, they don't like to accept when a soldier has a problem.
Yeah.
Because they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. But yeah, he phoned me up, mate, randomly. So I sent him a message. I said, can I get your number? I think Hugh might have put a little little nudge for me. Because I heard him on Rogan, and I was like, this guy, because he has had the same reaction from the British forces as what Al did when Al started taking his Inner Armour stuff in. And I was like, I can coordinate, and you two could get together maybe, and hopefully. And I was asked for his number, so I sent him he gave it to me. I sent him a WhatsApp, and the next thing I know, he started phoning me up and went off on this big scientific tangent on the phone. I was like, fucking mind blown, mate. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds amazing.
Well, it was the same as like I listened to obviously all the Rogan stuff, and it was like, wow. So basically, in the day, it's like, is that what is caused by inflammation in the brain? And I started getting and using all this technical jargon. And it was the same as when Hugh had him on. It was like he said, I have to keep it like the correct terminology because people do points on this as well. And you can understand anything, because you're like that top level doctor.
If you're a top level doctor, you can't just be making up fucking words.
Exactly. But do you know, it's the same as Mandy Boswick, Mandy as well, you know, and she said it, and like I'm thinking, wow, all these people have got the actual answer to a lot of things. But once again, it comes down to with the military, the problem is it's accountability. It's natural. If you take somebody, you from a civilian form, you then take them and then put them in, especially over the last 20 years of conflict based. If you take that civilian who's never been in an area of violence or anything like that, okay, a normal upbringing, etc. For example, a lot of them are from broken homes. There's a lot of like the problems afterwards come from the childhood. But if you then put them into an area of conflict where you've got rounds coming in, bombs going off, you know, chaos, an absolute chaos, especially the more the campaign's ramped up in, say, Helmand, you know, when you put someone in that area and then continuously go in that area and that area and that area and keep that repetitive, like that is essentially that. It's a repetitive, you know, injury. You are bouncing somebody off walls, and for the military then to turn around and say the person hasn't got a problem, it's because they don't want the deniability. Because at the end of the day, they've created a product that's going to then serve their purpose. That's essentially going to then do what they don't. And I agree. And there's also, I love the area of like, because essentially we lost those two wars. We lost them. And I know
100%.
You know, and I know Guess had can't remember the guy's name on now off the top of my head, but he had it about losing small wars because it's essentially we lost two conflicts. But what did we get out of it? We destabilized the Middle East. We completely obliterated people's lives, you know, all on an eye. But you know, we could go through these and completely analyze whole situations. But at the end of the day, if you get a human, put them into such a traumatic experience and, you know, chaos, do you expect that person to be normal when they come out of it? I don't think so.
I did a fucking a podcast like ages ago now, where it was literally the title of it was "We're Not Normal." You can't expect us to be normal.
No.
And like I remember I'm pretty sure I put it in the book, but it's definitely in my tour diary. And it wasn't until my third tour when I knew I was coming out. And I was sat around watching the American. I think they just took out an ID team, and I believe it was a 13 or 14-year-old girl that actually was taken out by this fucking rocket. And I saw all the US Marines cheering and shouting and going, "Yeah, fucking come on!" And I was like, "What the fuck is going on?
Yeah,
what are we doing?"
Normal. Yeah.
And I remember being in that mindset, and I remember thinking that, and I remember then I would like sort of reminisce, like go back to Kandahar, go back to when I went to Iraq. If I had saw that, I'd be like, "Fucking come on!" It'll be smashed one. But it's like that's a 13-year-old kid that's obviously been told to go and lay that.
Yeah,
she doesn't want to go and lay that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could talk about this for hours, mate. Definitely.
Exactly. And that's the way I look at it. When we talk about and break these situations down, it's not normal. It's not normal to go and shoot somebody in the face. It's not normal to go and bayonet someone. It's not normal.
No, it's not.
And the people have exactly, and people have said around and said it's the same as, well, the Taliban, that's discussing all those ideas. Hang on a minute, we actually had 1,000-pounders, laser guided bombs and all that. Is that fair? You can look at both sides. They done what they had to do because they equal what we were doing to them. And we had firepower. What they had, they didn't have an air force. They didn't have that munitions. So they played ball back. And it's like, well, it is what it is, isn't it?
And they played their game very, very well.
Yeah.
But
yeah, they are.
It's always the way, mate. It's always the way. Yeah. And just to sidetrack away from the old military speak for a bit. because I know you're a keen martial artist as well. So what sort of got you into martial arts?
I was a hyperactive kid. I was literally just, I was crazy little dude, like, you know what I mean? Watching the films, American Ninja, Bruce Lee, all this stuff. And I was like, grew up in the 80s. And it's like, this is cool, isn't it? You see all this flashy stuff. And then, so I started doing karate because I was really hyper. And I do believe that's now ADHD, what I had. But, you know, to me, it's like I started off doing karate, got to like green belt, felt it's too static. I thought, and that's no disrespect for the art, because all art's quite equal. And then what I've done was I found that I went from like to karate, got to like green belt, and then got bored because I thought this is very static. I don't like this style. And then I started and then dipping into things and then different art forms. And I did Aikido, and people were like, you should go for your gradings. No, I enjoyed doing it. I did it because I enjoyed it. And I was getting to a level while I was training with like black belts and things. And it was like, I really enjoyed that whole area. And that also allowed us to find another like kind of a peaceful area as well. It was very like, with Aikido, it's a very peaceful art form.
So,
but then obviously
martial arts tend to have a bit of a yin and yang, you might want to say.
Yeah, they do, because there's a lot of peace in war. My favorite quote, and I'll say it, I actually got it from my instructor, John Atkin. You know, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than basically a gardener in a war, because you've always got to be prepared for the unknown. And to me, it's like John, I give massive respect, because when I graded, obviously because I had to stop, but I graded on like orange belt, like multi-style kickboxing with John, 8th Q ninjutsu. So I trained with John, you know, and even all of the military, like the combat stuff and boxing, all the different things. And to me, it's like, I love martial arts because it gives you a level of, there's something there. But do you know what it is? The older I got, the more I wasn't bothered about the flashy stuff like the Seagal, you know, because to me, that's just for the movies, you know. And even when you break it down, all art forms, and what I don't like is I don't like the disrespect between different forms. I don't like people saying one form's better than another. Like MMA, if you look at MMA, actually, MMA, believe it or not, it's like I call ninjutsu the original MMA. It has everything in that one art form. You know, it's the same as
Bruce Lee was.
People say,
Well, Bruce Lee was
he done it.
He did all sorts, didn't he? Obviously, I think the UFC like to say that he's sort of like the founder of mixed martial arts, in the way that he wanted to evolve himself. He didn't want to just be fucking kung fu. He didn't want to just be fucking this, that, and the other. He was doing jiu-jitsu and all sorts. Which, if you want to be a fighter, you can't just expect. Well, as you can see now, like, you can't just be good at one thing anymore. Obviously, 1993, you had the Gracies that dominated the UFC in UFC 1. But now, if he went in and fought now, again, if you say, for example, you took a George St. Pierre from now and put him into UFC 1, he would have dominated that, because he can do everything.
Exactly. And that's what I love about the art form, because there's a lot of different areas on that not just, it's not a physical violence, it's about controlling violence. That's what I always like to do it.
Yeah.
Because to me, you can have that level of violence, but it's controlled violence and how you apply it. I call it the Wolverine switch. So it's always about how you know when to apply that violence.
I like that.
It's literally like, you can be very calm one day, that one moment, and the next thing switch and go into attack form. It's about controlling your emotions. And to me, it's about all these different forms, because I've learned several, and there's a lot of similarity between every single one. And to me, it's like, I love martial arts, and like, I love the whole UFC side of things, because I see that there's multiple capabilities, and you can see somebody who does like from judo to, you know, jiu-jitsu, and that's not just Brazilian jiu-jitsu, there's Japanese jiu-jitsu as well. I mean, I love. And then you've got the wider form, and I could go on and on and on and on. Like then you've got the other areas that people like Eddie Quinn doing the approach, and Eddie is phenomenal, you know, and you know, and when you break all these people down and you see all these different forms, there is no one form of martial arts that's better than the other. They're all quite equal to each other.
No, and again, like we just said, the whole mixed martial arts format proves that.
Yeah.
because say for example, me and you are having a fucking 1-to-1, and I happen to be a better wrestler, but you're a fantastic striker. I'm going to try and take you down, clearly. So I'm not going to try and strike with you. That doesn't mean that wrestling is better than fucking Muay Thai, because at some point we're going to start on the feet. So I'm going to need some sort of striking. And that's why I love it so much. And that's why I love having people like Mason and Jack and One Punch and Liz Carmouche. The list can go on and on. And the way they can deal with putting their bodies and their minds through these situations. And Mason, I'm going to have Mason on in a couple of weeks' time, so we can go through his loss and how he's dealing with that. Unfortunately, I don't actually think he lost that fight, but that's me. Probably I might have been biased, but we'll go through that. But now he's gone from being undefeated double champion from Cage Warriors to his first fight in the UFC, and he loses. That's a hell of a drop. So it'll be good to get his.
But it's a learning curve.
It's
a learning curve.
It's like I think Coach Kavanagh says. Obviously, Conor McGregor's fight, and this is an old fucking quote. It's not a loss; it's a learn. You've got to learn why you took the L, basically.
But do you know something? What I found was, like, because I went down to see Stapes fight last year, and like obviously that was just before lockdown kicked off, you know, and I got there and I didn't realise that the fight had been cancelled on that morning. So I turned up, you know, in Manchester, went to, and like I was watching all the fights go on, and I'd seen Stapes come out, and like obviously like sit in front of it was ringside, and I was like, I thought he was supposed to be fighting, and it was until he actually came out and went, opponent pulled out on the day. I think that's a harder loss than actually getting in that cage and losing. You know, for all that training and the sacrifice and all that. And also we caught up afterwards, like these Stapes, Ando, and like a lot of the guys and that. And do you know what it is? I give him massive respect. He went back out there. He went ringside. He basically supported his team. You know, and then he he says, I did this for like my family, my friends, you know, my fans. And he showed his face. And to me, that's a massive level of respect, because like you could be completely destroyed. And he was destroyed, you know, but I think that's a harder loss. When you get in a cage, it's a 50-50 odd anyway. You can be, you know, someone like Conor McGregor.
You could have a puncher's chance. Like anyone has a puncher's chance.
Exactly. And to me, it's about the fight and form. It's about respect, because that's something John taught from me from day one. Everything begins and ends in respect. When you go in there, you respectfully, and I know this is quite a funny little story. I remember training we were doing, that was Muay Thai, because we were doing different forms, we were doing K1, Muay Thai, and this one kid come in and he was full of anger and he's probably giving it big licks and that, and like he was really trying to hammer people. And obviously I've been training for a bit, and I seen this kid and I was like, that's going to get you killed on the outside. If you went out swinging your fists and windmilling and all the rest and trying to give it big licks, you're going to get completely obliterated by someone. So we came in training and all that, and what it was he came up and we were sparring, and he had his gloves up, and he made a mistake. Obviously his gloves opened, gave us the opportunity, and I put basically a jab straight through the middle, bang, straight in the face, and he kind of woke up. He was like, whoa, because he must have thought it given it so much power that, like, I was like, yeah, fine, you wear yourself out, you wear that aggression. And then I took my opportunity, saw it, took it, and it completely blazed. It was like, whoa. And that just goes to show, it's like, so there's a lot of different areas now, and I don't think he actually came back, to be honest. But he learned on that day, it's about respect. You don't step into an arena of combat without going in respectfully, and you respect your opponent.
Yeah. He's obviously been out on a couple of nights out and managed to get a decent fight in or something like that on a night out, where he's gone windmilling and managed to catch a guy, and thinking that he can go into a fucking proper Muay Thai ring and then try the same. It's like, that's not going to happen, mate, because they actually know what they're doing and they're not pissed. It's like, I found that because I used to. I was a nightmare when I was growing up. I was always looking for a fight. If I wasn't trying to pull a bird, I'd be trying to fight someone, because I'm an idiot, or I was an idiot. Wasn't until I got the girls that I grew up a little bit, put it that way. Wouldn't matter the size of the person I was trying to fight. And when you're having a drunk fight, obviously they're just as pissed as you are. So it doesn't matter if you're fucking windmilling. You're gonna, if you catch them, they're already fucking halfway on the floor anyway. It wasn't until I went and started boxing training with the Air Force and I was fucking pasted all over the shop, and I was like, fucking, this doesn't normally happen.
Because it's like, different perspective, isn't it? It's like, a good friend of mine, like Martin. He was obviously a bouncer, and we went on a seminar with John, and John asked, he says, "Has anybody knocked somebody out?" And Martin's like, "This guy, big dude. You're talking 6 foot odd. Think of Kratos of God of War. He is. That is what Martin looks like. He's a big dude." And he put his hand up, and John said, "How did you feel?" He went, "I hated it. I actually physically hated knocking the guy out." Now that's the problem with people. Yeah, it's that point of like, and that's just like obviously striking someone, knocking them out and dropping them on the floor. And that's from a bouncer. Now, and that's what people forget, is because there is that, once again, that controlled level of violence. And it's about being savvy enough to think, pick your battles, pick your battles. Don't go in there giving it big licks, throwing your fists around, because at the end of the day, now it's worse because knives. At the end of the day, put the knife down, The whole scene's changed. I wouldn't want to be a bouncer now in this day and age, because there's no respect. It wasn't like back in the day when people had a brawl outside the bar and everyone was jumping in and it was like fists of glory, and then everybody shook hands at the end of the day, dust themselves, they walked away. There was a level of respect still even on the street back 30 years ago, back in the 90s. And then people started thinking, oh, well, I'm going to carry knives. Put it down. You're not hard by carrying a weapon. At the end of the day, you're not only going to hurt, end somebody's life, you're going to destroy a family. It doesn't make it hard.
And in turn, it's going to, in turn, they're going to destroy their own life, because they'll get caught one day, and whether it'll be by another gang with a fucking knife, or you get life in prison, then treat yourself to that and get raped every fucking day.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fucking bum raped, as if I just said that. But Chris, it's almost fucking 3:00. I know you've got family commitments, and I've got a lovely roast getting prepared.
Happy days.
Loving all that, mate. It's always a fucking privilege to chat to you, always, and more than welcome to come on anytime. It's been a long time coming, and I fucking enjoyed it. We could have been talking for 3 hours, I reckon. But
exactly,
I'm trying to behave because my missus keeps saying, "Well, how long are you be out there today?" It's like, no, I'm gonna stick to an hour and a half max.
Yeah,
but
it's a good little format because it keeps you disciplined as well as a podcaster. Because I found that if I stick to an hour, and I know Instagram have become a little bit lenient now where it can roll over the hour. But look, once again, if you say this as a podcast format and keep to an hour, it keeps you disciplined. But you can also think, right, I'm going to cover this, and this, and actually cover the topics that need to be covered.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, it allows you that discipline, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the only time that might slip with it is when I do talk to the likes of like Mason Jones, because he fucking talks to whales. He literally doesn't shut up, and you're like, mate, it's almost 3 hours in. People have stopped listening.
Exactly. It's not Rogan, is it? Where they're just like, oh.
Yeah, I have to even chop up Rogan episodes, mate.
Yeah,
I'm still on his latest one with Brendan Schaub. I have to chop them up. But yeah, mate, I hope you have a fucking good afternoon. I've fucking enjoyed this. Every time I have a podcast, it makes me feel fucking better, and hopefully people can find. Well, that's another one. I got this from John, actually, Beamson. Yeah. Where can people find you?
Well, predominantly it's on Instagram. So it's Darkside Podcast on Instagram. Yes, it does transition over to Facebook, but I don't bother with Facebook. It's like that's like the second brother of Twitter that I'll just try and avoid it as best I can. But also on iTunes as well, iTunes, Spotify. Also, if people really want to find out more, if you go on the link in the bio, on my main page, you'll be able to do the flow page chart, like different areas. We'll go through podcasts, different platforms, even the books, Amazon. It'll take you through there. So I would say go on the link through the bio, and it will take you straight to anywhere that you want
happy
to.
Days,
really,
happy days. You've been summoned already. Look, you got a little visitor behind you.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, enjoy, mate. Enjoy your rest of your afternoon, and I'll catch you in a bit.
Will do. Yep. No,
Cheers,
right.
mate.
You can. You too, right?